The movie start with Charles Wren, a very dangerous British criminal, but he is an escape artist and has never been caught. We see Charles in the operating room surrounded by doctors, and we understand that he wants to undergo an operation in which he will change his appearance so that he can escape from the police. We know that this is not the first time he has performed this operation, but rather that this is the 10th time. And the anesthesiologist is inside to sedate Charles, but he refused anesthesia and said he liked the pain. At the same time, the police arrived and surrounded the building in which Charles was located. Before they began the mission, the police chief met with them and warned them that Charles was a professional killer and criminal and could kill a large number of men without using weapons. They all move into the building to the 13th floor to arrest Charles. But before the doctor could begin the procedure, Charles felt betrayed. Someone told the police, grabbed a doctor's scalpel, and ended up dead. Once the police arrived at the operating room, Charles was not there. He managed to escape from them and the police opened fire on him. Charles is able to dodge bullets, run through hallways, break a window, and jump off the building from the 13th floor. Surprisingly, she is fine. Charles was able to descend very quickly. But despite his speed, however, the police were able to surround him and finally arrest him after 15 years of persecution. Then we move to a plane and see the beautiful flight attendant Marta. The situation was calm like any normal day, but suddenly one of the passengers got up, took out a gun, held Marta hostage, and threatened to kill her if his demands were not met. But Marta was brave and hit him in the leg, and one of the passengers was able to snatch the gun from the criminal's hand. But we see that everyone on the plane is applauding, and we know that this is just training for the flight attendants to act in dangerous situations. We know that the man who was pretending to be a criminal is named John Carter, a retired secret agent with great experience in solving crimes. An airline official, Sly, arrives and takes John with him. We learn that the two have been friends for a long time, and Sly asks John to return to his job as a detective again. But John refuses. He told him that he would never risk his life for people again. Sly offers him to be responsible for security in the airline. John thinks about the offer a little, but immediately agrees. When Sly told him that he would only work for him twice a month. When Charles is in prison, his lawyer comes to him and tells him that in a few days he will go to California and there he will be executed by electric chair. And the only way out of this case is to claim that he is crazy. But Charles does not like this talk, so the lawyer grabs him by the head and hits him and keeps saying, "I am not crazy." We see John practicing a type of yoga and we flash back to 5 years ago, him and his wife in the supermarket. But suddenly a thief entered a market and threatened the market owner with the gun he had with him. John intervenes and raises his gun in the thief's face and tries to stop him. But the thief took his wife hostage and threatened to kill her if he did not drop his gun. John drops his weapon, but in less than a second, the thief hit John's wife and fled. John followed the thief and finished and ran to his wife to see her, but unfortunately his wife died. John fell into a state of deep depression and shock, quit his job as a secret intelligence agent, and isolated himself from everyone for a long time. But after a long absence, John prepares for his first day on the job. His mission will be to travel incognito on flights like any normal traveler, and be responsible for the security of passengers inside the plane against hijacking incident. And John has already done that. And his seat will be inside plane number 57. This flight heads to California. This is the same flight on which Charles will be transported with 2 FSB agents until he is executed. We see flight attendant Marta and another flight attendant named Sabrina on the same plane. There was a little boy who saw Charles playing with him, so he made a gun with his hand and hit him. Charles responded and pretended to be dead. He continued the game with the child and made a gun with his own hand. But the handcuffs were on his hands, and this was terrifying for the young child. Many of the plane's passengers began to wonder about the matter and whether the situation was safe for them. Hostess Sabrina goes to the customers and reassures them that everything is safe. Sabrina calls someone and asks for special food. He brings her a metal suitcase and begins the journey to California. John got tired of the woman next to him talking too much and decided to go to the bathroom. Sabrina moves around in the food cart and the metal suitcase, arrives at the customers, takes a gun out of the suitcase, shoots the customers, and creates complete chaos in the plane. Charles removed the handcuffs and moved from his position under the protection of Sabrina and 3 criminals who were also on board. They threatened people with weapons to keep them quiet. Charles entered the cockpit and killed one of the pilots without hesitation in order to intimidate the second pilot and take control of the plane. He spoke into the microphone and told the passengers that he had hijacked the plane and would change the plane's course, and that they would be safe if they heard his words and carried out his orders. John is still in the bathroom listening to all this. He tries to act and calmly opens the bathroom door and takes one of the plane's phones. He calls Sly and tells him what happened. He hits one of the criminals, takes his weapon, creates a human shield, and stands in front of Charles. But Charles catches Marta. Charles kills one of the passengers to make sure he is not joking. He fires another bullet at John, but it hits Charles' colleague, and John manages to escape with Marta and go down to one of the rooms. There he meets a member of the pilot's crew, and John attacks him, but convinces him that he is a member of the plane's crew. He is the same person who brought the weapon to Charles, and John leaves it. At this moment, this man attacks John, and the two get into a fight. But with a powerful blow, John breaks down the door and ties it up, and John and Marta go to the plane's control room. John wanted to empty the plane's fuel tank until the pilot makes an emergency landing with reserve fuel at the nearest airport. But Marta tells him that this is a stupid decision and that this could destroy the plane. But John made her understand that this was the only way, and Marta agreed. They both move to where the plane's wheels come out, because this is the only place they can get out when the plane lands, and their plan is already working. At the airline headquarters, they know the place where the plane will make an emergency landing. It will be a small airport in a place called Lucy. Sly gets on the helicopter and goes to the place. John and Marta prepare to get off the plane. Once it lands, John opens the door, but a criminal appears and hits John and throws him out of the plane. He catches Marta again. 2 policemen arrive and arrest John. John swears that he is not a criminal, but he is captured and taken with them. Charles calls the watchtowers and Police Chief Pager responds. Charles tells him that he wants to fill the plane with fuel within 10 minutes, and in return, he promises him that he will release 100 of the plane's passengers. But Bigger refuses, and Charles gets angry and kills 5 of the passengers and throws them from the plane. Then Bigger becomes certain that Charles is a crazy criminal and does not hesitate to threaten him, and orders the plane to be filled with fuel. At this time, the police arrive at Pager with John, and Pager says that John is definitely one of the criminals, and speaks to Charles to delegate him to John and tell him that one of his men has been arrested. Here Charles understands and says that John is really one of his men. He orders the officers to detain John until he sees how he will behave, but John takes advantage of the opportunity, beats them and escapes from them on the police motorcycle and goes to the place where the plane lands. After the planes were filled with fuel, Charles fulfilled his promise and released 100 hostages, taking advantage of the chaos that had occurred. He and 2 of his men escaped from the plane, hid in the crowd, and went to a nearby festival. At the watchtowers, an official arrives FBI, and he asks a detailed report on what is happening. And he learns that the police arrested John, so he became very angry and told them that they were very stupid, and told them that John was responsible for security on the plane. And John arrived at the festival and saw these criminals, but one of the criminals saw him and shot him. But the bullet hits another person, and because of the sound of the bullets, there is chaos in the place and people run everywhere. John escapes and rides a toy, and one of the criminals follows him. But the criminal falls from above and dies. John surprises Charles, attacks him, manages to arrest him, and the police arrive. Sly congratulates his friend John on his success in this mission, but little did they know that the problem was not over yet, and Charles told the officers present that they must let him go. Otherwise, the criminals on the plane would kill the hostages one by one. John tried to negotiate with him, but to no avail, and the FBI had no other solution but to return Charles back to the plane to protect the lives of hostages. But they had a plan, which was to deploy snipers on top of a building close to the plane, and at the right moment, the snipers would target all the criminals, and John was the supervisor of this mission. We will see the mission completed. The FBI brings Charles back, but while they were on the stairs of the plane, snipers hit the officer, and we discovered that the criminal who escaped from the festival killed the real snipers, took their weapons, and opened fire on all the officers present, and the battle began between him and the police. Many people died, but they managed to kill this criminal in the end. But the plane started to take off, but John got into a police car with Pager and they quickly moved behind the plane. John said that he would enter the plane through the hole in the wheel. John was able to enter the plane, reach the cargo room, kill one of the criminals, beat Sabrina and knock her unconscious, and he preferred not to do that, unlike Charles. But before John can confront him, Charles moves into the cockpit and tells the pilots to change course and return back to Lucy Airport. He goes to Charles and tries to take a weapon. They engage in a strong and violent battle, and in the middle of the confrontation between them, a bullet enters the plane's door. This causes compression failure, and then it breaks the door. Marta holds on with all her strength to avoid getting out of the plane, and John pushes Charles towards the broken door of the plane, and Charles hits him hard and throws him from the plane, and in the end everything ends. John calls the watchtower and says he got rid of all the criminals. They are very happy and all the passengers are happy. We see that the plane landed safely, and all the passengers got off, but John took Marta with him and moved away from the journalists. and stayed away from them because he did not like to brag. And Sly spoke to the reporters and told them that he was responsible for saving the plane. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for new movie clips. See you in the next video.